Good morning. Welcome to the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Thank you for joining us. October 4th, 2025, we're live here at WCCO every Saturday morning for the Minnesota Real Estate Show, hosted by Mike Overson, Luminate Bank, Scott Wolmering, myself, Ryan O'Neill with the Minnesota Real Estate Team and REMAX Advantage Plus. Hope your weekend is starting off well. This is a live show, local, interactive. We welcome your questions, comments, thoughts anytime throughout the show. Got a lot to talk about with the market, current market conditions for buyers, sellers, investors. Scott, good morning to you, buddy.
Yeah, good to be here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Like Ryan said, we're going to be on here in 3 seconds. So that's all I got to say. Thanks for being to the show.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Here we go. Well, good morning and welcome to the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for joining us. October 4th, 2025. This is the Minnesota Real Estate Show hosted by Mike Overson of Luminate Bank, Scott Wolmering, and myself, Ryan O'Neill, with the Minnesota Real Estate Team, REMAX Advantage Plus. We hope your weekend is starting off well. Hope your October is starting off well. Hard to believe, October 4th already. And this is, again, it's a local show. It's interactive. 612-294-6949 is how you can join us at any point. 612-294-6949. A lot to talk about. Scott, good morning to you there, buddy.
Yeah, good to be here. Appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Like Ryan said, this is the Minnesota Real Estate Show. We're here every Saturday for an hour. Love your comments and feedback, 612-294-6949. You can also, if you're checking us out on all of the social media, you can just type your questions in there and we will handle them as they come in. At the beginning of the show, we always like to do a couple market updates. I want to say a shout out, actually, before we do that, to my ex-wife Jen's sister's in town, Bridget.
Oh, nice.
She's in town through Monday. We've been having a lot of fun. Great seeing her. She's from Houston. And we're going to have another couple fun days.
Yeah, very nice. Very nice. 612-294-6949 is how you can join us at the Minnesota Real Estate Show, talking all things, again, real estate related, whether you're a buyer, seller, investor, just a casual follower, wondering what's going on with the market. Interest rates this week, Scott, the update from Luminate Bank and Mike Overson. Interest rates ticked up just slightly on the 30-year fixed. A couple weeks ago, they were as low as about 6.25, and now they just went up slightly, 6.34, showing sort of national averages. So just a slight increase this past week. And when we look at the real estate numbers, Scott, interesting numbers to share. This week, new listings are down 7.5%. There were 1,354 new listings that came on the market. Pending sales up almost 10% year over year. Wow. 981 pending sales, accepted purchase agreements. The inventory is very similar to last year. Inventory of homes for sale, 10,704. Scott, pending sale increase of 10%. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that actually surprises me a little bit. In the last 3 weeks to 4 weeks, there's definitely been let's call it a blip in the radar. Things are stalling. What was the year over year appreciation?
Year over year appreciation right now, 2.8%.
Okay.
Median sales price is right around $400K here in the Twin Cities. So 400,000 up 2.8%.
Yeah, and I would argue that 2.8% is really more front loaded to the beginning of this year. There's no doubt in the last 3 months there's been a settling in of value, and I would argue that you probably are not going to get the same number that you got 4 or 5 months ago that you're getting right now. I think there's and some areas are hit harder than others. There's still, for whatever reason, that 700 to 1,000,001 is still really busy, but things like townhomes are tough. If there's any little chink in the armor, if it's an inside townhome versus an outside townhome, those are sitting. So it really just does depend. So like we talk about all the time, in every market, pricing is important, But in this market, it is extremely, extremely important. You do not want to get on the other side of overpricing and then reducing. I can give you example after example after example this year where people have really, really hurt themselves and got way less money because they started aggressive.
Scott, this week, it's sort of fun on the Minnesota real estate team. We do a couple times a month, we do a little training session just to share relevant local updated topics. This week, we talked all about listings and working with sellers. And one of the big themes was, again, just about pricing. And I think last year, nationally, this was a national statistic. It was a little over 70% of everyone across the United States with a real estate license did not do a transaction.
Yeah, 73%.
Yeah, and so if your Uncle Frank or someone says, "Hey, I want to sell my house," as an agent, you can naturally be, "Hey, wow, I'm super excited. I've got a listing," and you kind of go with the flow on, "Hey, okay, great. Yeah, Frank, you want to put her at 500K? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's go for it."
Then you hear crickets chirp.
But I think, again, to your credit, Scott, I used you as an example. Sometimes you have to just, you have to rip the Band-Aid off and be brutally honest with people right up front at the first meeting and just say, "Look, this is the value." We'll look at similar homes with potential sellers. We'll go out and we'll look at similar homes because I think you're doing a big disservice to sellers.
Well, and that's the reason why you have a hard conversation up front, because these people's lives are on the line. You overprice their house because that's what they want to do, and they're sitting on it for 6 months. Their life is in upheaval because they believe they're going to get a number that they're never going to get. And to have that discussion up front is really in the seller's best interest. But it's the age-old problem. Seller believes you want to just sell their house. You just want to sell it quick because you want to get paid. Well, if that's what you think about your real estate agent, get another real estate agent, because that should never be the thought of the agent. It should always be, how do we get the most money and best terms in your pocket, and what's the best way of achieving that? And the problem is that sellers, for the most part, have been used to a market where, you put your home on the market and maybe you get 5 showings over 3 months. So you start aggressive because you can always reduce down. But in this market, for the last basically 8 years, you're talking about 10, 15 showings in the first week. You should have 3 offers at that point. And so the overpricing or pricing aggressive to come down, which is basically feeling out the market, those days are gone, because you're going to get traffic. And oh my gosh, if you're not getting traffic in this market, then you really are overpriced.
Yeah. Good comments. 612-294-6949 is how you can join us. We are live. We welcome your questions, comments, thoughts, feedback at any point during the show. Before the break, Scott, speaking of listings, we've got a couple to hit here for the Minnesota real estate team. One in Lonsdale, 514 Deerview Drive, Southeast in Lonsdale. A brand new listing, listed at $435,000. It's 2019 built, a 4-bed, 3-bath. It's a walkout rambler. Lots of great updates. You got new stainless steel appliances in 2023. You got a rough-in in the basement for a second kitchen, awesome wet bar, a heated garage with built-in speakers, hot and cold water, and epoxy floors, a big deck for entertaining, just to relax and enjoy. And it's either TCU, Montgomery, or New Prague schools. And actually, our friend Suzanne Joy is doing an open house today, 10 o'clock to 11:30. So she's out there. She's out there right now. Be sure to check that listing out. One other one before the break. Michelle Moan has one, Scott. This one is listed for $765,000. It is 3020 Cary Heights Drive, 6-bed, 4-bath. I got large oversized windows, abundance of natural light, primary suite, laundry on the main level. The walkout lower level has full independent living. It's got a full kitchen, 2 baths, full bath, bonus room. And the kitchen, she said, is a chef's dream. Brand new quartz countertops, unique center island. Enjoy the evening fires in the fire pit, near the fire pit, the stunning landscape, sitting on the outdoor patio. 3020 Cary Heights Drive, $765,000. Be sure to check that one out. This is the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Yeah, Suzanne just texted in. Looks like she's doing an open out there.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. It's actually I was just looking at it yesterday. It looks like a great house. When we get back, I've got one to hit too. Actually, my daughter Jordan's going to do her first open.
That's cool.
So that'll be she's excited.
Yeah, had a comment come in just regarding government shutdown, issues with government shutdown, what we think regarding FHA loan process. Scott, thoughts on that?
I'm trying to remember last time they shut it down, or the time before that they shut it down, or the time before that they shut it down. I think it affects VA. Didn't they? I thought they had a process for continuing the FHA, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, well, and a lot of questions we've gotten this week too is how long we think the shutdown's going to last.
How long do I think it's going to last?
Yeah,
less than a week. I think it'll last up until the first time, which is the 16th, is the first time that they all the employees would actually not get a check.
Okay.
So right now they got their check, and the next one's on I think the 16th. They said. So I think it'll get corrected by then.
Yeah, there is again just seeing some talk online regarding the shutdown that it does impact essentially the timeline, so there can be delays with processing
for FHA.
Yeah, FHA and VA. So processing delays. So again, it certainly impacts people.
Yeah.
From a funding standpoint, a qualification standpoint. Be sure to be connecting with your lender on that, so you know what's going on. Especially if you've got to hit like a certain timeline to get a written statement over, which is kind of like a final approval. So there's certain important dates, Scott.
Yeah, for sure. And and again, I don't think that it's going to last that long. It can't. But I have no idea. That's just my guess. I heard him talking about it yesterday, and some of the uppity ups believe kind of the same thing, that they don't believe that they're going to actually miss an actual paycheck, which would be on the 15th.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Yeah, good. Very good question. We will be monitoring that one as well. We're going back live on air here on the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Appreciate you joining us on social media. Hey, welcome back to the Minnesota Real Estate Show. We appreciate you joining us each week. Scott, before you hit on that new listing that you've got, I just wanted to touch on each week we do a little minute of hope for the O'Neill Foundation of Hope. We help local families and individuals who have experienced multiple hardships, unexpected hardships, usually health-related accidents, a variety of bad things. We step in to help them. This week, just wanted to talk about our friend Rosa. Rosa is a very strong single mother. She is an immigrant, really a true fighter. She is facing cancer, a pretty severe cancer diagnosis. She's got no immediate family here in the Twin Cities, and she is currently, as a result of her cancer, unable to work. She bravely battles not only for her own life, but to keep food on the table for her two kids. In her moment of need, Rosa did reach out to us at the O'Neill Foundation of Hope. We're grateful she did. We were honored to help in a small way with some bills, some essential food items, and various support during this difficult time. And we said her courage inspires us. Let's continue to lift each other up together. Hope is stronger. Wonderful lady, Scott. Met her yesterday. Her whole family is overseas. She's got nobody here. You got cancer, you can't work. Life comes at us hard some days.
Yeah, it just reminds me of something. I think I told you this. That was said that it was a lady saying that 70, I think it was 63 or 73 or 70%, something like that, of homeless people come out of the foster care system. And basically what her point was, which is why I love the O'Neill Foundation so much, her point was, don't think that because you're 28 years old and living in your mom's basement, that, you are that person without your mom, is her point. So if you've ever had to move back home because you've got family and you can do that, think about if there was no family and you're out of money and you've made mistakes or whatever. And now what do? Well, you're homeless. So anyway, that resonated with me because it's like people don't think like that. They think, oh, that's so bad. I would never be like that. a couple left turns and you can be like that. So anyways, what you guys do is incredible.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Again, o'neillhope.org is where you can learn more about who we help, and we're grateful for spreading the word or nominating anyone you know who is going through a difficult hardship. Scott.
New listing in Lakeville on today, first open today. In fact, my daughter Jordan is going to be doing the open. It is 18586 Jonesboro Court in Lakeville. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. 3-bedroom, 3-bath. It's an end unit, hard to find. Really, it was built in 2020, decorated to perfection. It is a very, very cool entry-level townhome, $350,000. The open today is from 11 to 1. Go see my daughter Jordan.
Yeah, text message question. Again, you can text or call us 612-294-6949. It comes right to us here at WCCO. This one just says interest rate or income ? Which is more important in qualifying to buy a home? Interest rate or income? Which is more important in qualifying to buy a home? Obviously, income, you've got to have a certain amount of income that you're making. The lender looks at your debt to income to determine that. Interest rate, I would say, is a bonus, Scott, but that affects that monthly payment in qualification, right?
Yeah, I would say they're tied together. So if interest rates are at 5% and you have enough income to buy a $500,000 house, well, your income doesn't change, but interest rates go from 5% to 7%. Well, now you can't buy a $500,000 house; you can buy a $430,000 house.
Right.
So they're tied together. I mean, you obviously have to have income, and if your income's large enough, well, then interest rates become less relevant. But when you're at a person like most of us are, where you qualify for, $500,000 at 5%, well, if it goes up to 1%, you no longer qualify for $500,000.
Yeah, good question. Again, 612-294-6949. Question is, are you seeing a lot of low appraisals come in on that? Scott, are you hearing much on the low appraisal front?
I haven't really. And, and we talk about, and it's definitely a thing that can happen. And especially, when you're talking about 30, 40 offers on a property and it goes $100,000 over. Yeah. We've seen some low appraisals, but those aren't really low. You've taken a number that is out of whack. And so I always tell my seller, okay, if their house is listed at 550 and we got a 650 offer, I always say you sold your house somewhere between 550 and 650. So it might not appraise at 650 because the buyer went, over their skis too much. It is what it is.
Yeah, I had a question too about photography. This was one thing we talked about at the listing meeting. That first picture you have is so important of what showing your property online. They always say kind of your first showing is online, and whether or not you get people to just swipe left and keep going or looking at more photos. One other thing we mentioned, Scott, is the number of photos. Sometimes instead of having like 90 pictures, where you just want to get like the core pictures. What we a lot of times recommend is say put the first 10 photos at the beginning. So, front of the home, interior of the home, kitchen, back. They want to see what the lot is versus you've got 80 photos and you got to get to the 80th photo to see what the backyard looks like. Well, so simple things like that,
Well, why would they show your house? They just looked at it.
Right.
So they've just now through 90 photos determined that 90 photos, virtual tours, all that. They've already identified that they don't want to see it. Well, that's not what you want, because no matter how good the pictures are, it still does not give you the flavor of walking through a house alive. And so
that's one thing that I would say it's happened in the market the last 5 years, where I think agents feel a pressure to post more photos on every listing. And obviously you want to accurately display the property. We work with a great company called Nordy.
Yeah.
Nordy, Adam and his team, he's been a longtime partner of the Minnesota real estate team. They do a wonderful job, and you want to accurately reflect it. But I think, again, I'll see listings where literally it takes like 70 photos to see what the backyard looks like.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you just want to see the lot.
Yeah.
So again, at some point, there's simple things that you can do, But I think, again, we as agents feel pressure with that, Scott.
Yeah, and a lot of what we do as agents is driven by our sellers. So we all know that open houses sell less than 1% of the houses that you're in. So open houses have nothing to do with selling your property. It has more to do with an agent. First weekend you get a little feedback on what they're thinking, but basically for agents to pick up traffic. So why do we see so many open houses being done? Because sellers believe they work. I can't believe my sister, they put 90 photos up and you only put 20 photos up. So if you don't have that discussion about why you're doing that it's strategic, it's not like you're trying to save $6 on additional, 50 photos. Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry.
612-294-6949 is how you can reach us here at the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Had a comment and a question again, just regarding title insurance. We've had this discussion, the last couple months. Title insurance, I always recommend it when you're buying a home, getting what's called an owner's policy, which essentially protects your title during the length of ownership. There is a one-time fee that you're paying at the time of closing. So that's all looped in to your closing costs at the time of closing. But it is important because it's not common, Scott, but there can be title issues that pop up from time to time.
Yeah, I think I've told this on the show before, but when I was a brand new agent, I sold a house in Apple Valley, and there was a unpaid mechanics lien for $140,000 that was there from when it was originally built. And if my people didn't have title insurance, somebody's paying that $140,000. And right now it would be the homeowners because they're the ones that got it. But yeah, it had been there for 15 years. The house had sold 2 or 3 times and it never came up. And now when they go to sell it, there's a $140,000 lien from when the house was built.
Yeah, already up against the halfway point here at the Minnesota Real Estate Show, 612-294-6949. Before the break, Scott, we've got one in Moose Lake, 4030 North Road in Moose Lake for $380,000. This is 76 acres. It's got gravel roads to the pond, duck and deer hunting areas. It's a lined pond with a fountain. There's an outbuilding, completely renovated home, super clean finished garage. And Paul Dokauer on the team has this listed, said it's a duck and deer hunting paradise. There's a golf tee box on the driveway set up with 3 different ranges and pin locations. Fun. That'd be fun, Scott.
Would be fun.
$380,000. That's 4030 North Road in Moose Lake. And then one other one, Mike Katerlich has one in Lakeville, 16421 Gunflint Trail, $599,900. It's a 4-bed, 3-bath, 3-car garage. Wonderful hardwood floors throughout, with many built-ins. It's over 3,350 finished square feet. You got a large three-car garage, concrete driveway, running hot and cold water, and it backs to 5 acres of private conservation land. Very nice. 16421 Gunflint Trail in Lakeville. Just a little under 600,000, 4-bed, 3-bath, 3-car garage. This is the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Yeah, it's interesting, Scott, to see pendings increase. Because it seems in a lot of price ranges and areas, we've seen a slowdown of showing activity. And it's just, again, so specific. Neighborhood, price point, type of property. It's so important.
It is. And you don't really see it coming until you actually get the listing on. And, and I'm a big believer in what's called tracking hit counters, which is when you're a listing agent, you can see whoever's actually every agent that's got a saved search, you can see how many saved searches there are, how many people have saved it as a possibility, all of that kind of stuff to make sure that you're pricing it correctly and you've got enough butts in the seat to sell it. But even with that, there has been I swear to God, these last 3 weeks, it's just been weird.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's as we're entering into the fall season, this has been obviously this unusual with is this the last warm weekend they're saying?
Yeah,
perhaps?
It's going to be in the 60s next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's our probably our last hurrah.
Yeah. Comment, number one tip for a first-time home buyer. Number one tip for a first-time home buyer.
Number one tip for a first-time home buyer, I would say that choosing the right agent's always important, but your first time out, because your first purchase is really an equity builder. So you want, what I mean by that is you're probably not going to be in the house for more than 2 to 3 to 5 years. So you need to love where you live, obviously, but you need to make a really good buying decision, because at the end of that 3 years, you hope there's going to be some equity when you sell it. And so again, going back to trusting your agent, not an agent that's just trying to sell you a house, but an agent that's trying to put you in the best position, the best area, so that 3 years from now, you're walking away with some dough.
I'm a fan of, again, buying something. It could be a single family townhome condo. I think the sooner you can buy something, the better long term for kind of building equity and wealth growth. I am a fan of the single family home. Personally, I think there's maybe a little more upside. Nothing against townhomes or condos at all, but a little unknown right now.
Yeah, and that's it. Whenever there's anything unknown, is the association payment going to go up $200? What does that do to your value? You don't have that in single family homes, so there's less associated risk that you have.
Yeah, it's harder to know. Again, there's some homeowners insurance issues, HOA issues we're seeing with townhomes and condos, which is causing a few problems. We're going back live on air. Thanks for joining us. Welcome back. Welcome back to the second half of the Minnesota Real Estate Show. We appreciate you joining us. Hope your weekend is going well. This is a live show, a local show, and we welcome you to join us here at any point. The Minnesota Real Estate Team, we are a group of agents really all throughout Minnesota and Western Wisconsin. We help people with any and all types of properties, literally from land, mobile homes, to commercial real estate, larger transactions, luxury real estate. Scott, I can look at some of our transactions this year, and it's everywhere from 20, 30,000 purchase price to 2 million, 3 million plus.
Yeah. It's interesting a lot, and we always talk about this in the show at least once a year. Yes, selling a $3 million property is great. It's exciting. It's a big number. But the meat and potatoes for most agents, are the $250,000 to $600,000 price point. So, I get a call a lot when my Scott, my sister just bought a house. We didn't want to bother you because it was only $200,000, or that kind of thing. It doesn't matter. And I can say this absolutely truthfully, that I know all the agents on the team, and I cannot pick out an agent that would put less effort in a $100,000 house from a $2 million house. You're going to get the same service. They're going to be so my point is just, it's never too small. We're always going to take care of it.
Before we dive back into a couple other questions we got here at 612-294-6949, Scott, Jennifer Ritzman, great agent on the team. She's got one in Burnsville, 10934 Southview Drive, listed for $349,900. It is a 2-story. It's got 4 upper level bedrooms, 2.5 baths, a 2-car attached garage. You got new roof and siding in 2022. Beautiful oak flooring on the main and upper levels. It's a large flat corner lot. And the windows have been replaced with renewal by Andersen. The home has been with the same family for 40 plus years. She's actually doing an open house today from 11 to 1. 10934 Southview Drive in Burnsville, listed for $349,900. And then Jennifer Tischler has got one down in New Prague, 26650 Red Wing Avenue in New Prague for $730,000. This is a 10-acre property, very mature trees. It's a 1890s farmhouse. It's got tons of character, 4-bed, 2-bath, new septic system, newer mechanicals, roof and windows. There's an original barn with a lower level bar and an original silo. It's got outbuildings, 2 pole barns, 2-car garage. She's doing an open today, Saturday from 12 to 2, 26650 Red Wing Avenue for $730,000. Again, it's a 10-acre proper, 1890s farmhouse. Super cool.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, very, very cool. This comment came in. Sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, you're good.
Yeah, this this comment came in again. This was another question we mentioned a little bit earlier, just regarding the shutdown. Will it affect FHA and VA? Yes, it will, depending upon how long the shutdown goes. It can affect the processing timeline. Scott, we don't know how long the shutdown is going to go.
No, we don't. It's anybody's guess, but yeah, I remember last time it happened that it did affect FHA and VA, and depending on at what point of the process you were involved in it already. And I don't remember all the specifics, but yeah, it does affect it.
Yeah. Interesting. Interest rates. Again, this was just a comment. Missed the first part of your show. What happened with interest rates this week? Interest rates ticked up a little bit. So just a slight tick. Still low, Scott. Still, I mean, when you look at, I'm looking at a graph here right now, 30-year fixed back of January of this year. Guess what the 30-year fixed was at, right? January 16th.
I would say January 16th of this year, it was at 7.25%.
7%. Yeah, 7.04. So rates have definitely dropped. It's part of the reason we're seeing more pending sales. But again, pricing, we talk about it all the time, Scott. Pricing. So important. But also as a buyer's agent, very important as a buyer's agent to do a market analysis for when you're buying a property. Because again, you may feel like it's a great deal. You may say, hey, well, they listed it for 500, but we got it for 400. Well, the home may be worth 380.
Yes.
Yeah.
See it all the time.
So it is important. You've got to have an agent do a good market analysis for you. He or she's going to help you negotiate as well, Scott, but that market analysis is critical.
Yeah, it is. And it's the age-old question. Would you rather buy a property that has 10 offers on it or a property that's at 450 that you can buy for 400? And most people always say, well, the one that's 400. Well, the problem is it's not worth 400 or 450 because if it would have been gone. And so, yeah, and it's a hard thing to understand if you're not doing it. But we're not buying jeans that are discounted.
Yeah.
There is a value that the property is actually worth. So whether you think you're getting $150,000 off, and that feels really good. It only feels good if you didn't pay $100,000 more than it's worth.
This is an interesting question. I don't know if we've had this one before. It just said, guys, interesting discussion regarding pricing. Why do you think each seller thinks their home is the best and does not apply to a lot of what you're describing?
I think it's human nature. You've lived in your house. You love it. You've had people come over for dinner parties that told you it's the most incredible house they've ever seen in the planet. And they love this and they love this. And that's been going on for years. And so when an agent comes in and tells you what the value is, you've got a number in your brain that doesn't match up with that. What I always say is to just back off, put emotions aside and look at the actual market analysis. Your home's a 5-bedroom, that one's a 5-bedroom. Yours is 4-bath, that's 4-bath. That was built in 2021. You were built in 2021. Same builder. That one sold for 500. Why is yours worth 6? And get them involved in actually having the seller having to say, well, here's the difference. And the reality is, of course, there is no difference. But that's just human nature. You'll have a seller that will spend 15 minutes showing you the closet organizer that they put in because that's a huge selling point. Well, that's what they think.
Yeah. And you're very sensitive
very much
to people.
Yes.
When they do that.
Yes.
You're very compassionate
I am.
and listening. Ryan, what do you think about that? Can't you imagine Scott really having a nice listening ear?
Well, I mean, we have to listen to him every week. So, or he listens to us.
Yes.
So either because he's kind of forced to because he's standing there. But, so, yeah, by all accounts, yeah, sure, he's a good listener.
It is hard. Human nature, I think it is hard where you want to feel like you made a really good decision. I think about where I live in Bloomington. We bought at the height of the market and the value really hasn't increased a lot over the years. And so that's hard as a homeowner. It's a little bit kind of deflating where you're like, well, but again, it's timing is important. You need to do a market analysis. Again, this was 2005 when the market crashed after that. Scott, speaking of that, I've heard a lot of talk. Do you think the market's going to crash?
No, you got to remember that what happened back in 2007, 2006, 2007, 2008 is you could buy $1 million. You could make $20,000 a year, go out and buy $1 million property without any of your own money in. You're going to take an 80% first in the
Or
business,
verifying anything.
or verifying anything. You would literally be asked, or you could ask the loan officer, how much money do I have to make to buy this house? Well, you have to make $600,000. Okay, I make $600,000. Credit scores at 750. Bingo, you got a loan. So
Right. What do you think, man? You want $1 million crib?
I guess I seriously, it's never been explained that easily to me before. That's really
That's what
it was,
happened.
huh? I was too young to process what was going on at that time.
Yeah, that's what happened.
yeah, literally, I mean, you would have. Well, if you ever watch The Big Short, which I recommend that you do, that is literally what we were living at that time. Where finally the guy that is going to short the market goes to a strip club. And he said, "What about this house that you bought?" And she's like, "Well, that's just one of 7." So she had bought 7 properties. And what they would do on back then is the house is really worth 300. They would sell it for 6. The buyer would get 200-300 grand at closing back. And so if you bought 7 properties, you just put $3 million in your property in your pocket. The problem is every house you bought for 700 grand is really worth about 250. And so at some point, even that $1 million that you got in mortgage fraud is going away, and that's what crashed the market.
Yeah, and it's so different now, much more difficult, Ryan. You want to get a mortgage, you're put through like a 40-pronged pre-approval process because the lender doesn't, obviously, they don't want that same thing to happen. So they want to protect their money, their investment, and understandably verifying income, assets, all these things. And of course, things are expensive now. So it's harder. That's why the average first-time home buyer now is 38 years old. That's terrible, in my opinion. When we started in the business, it was in the 20s, but it's hard because stuff is expensive. Any thoughts on that, Ryan?
Well, just anecdotally, I work amongst people. I'm with my friends. Many of them live at home still, and they're my age, or early 30s, and then even in the mid to late 20s. People who I know, they find it hopeless. They find it hopeless that they're ever going to buy a home, and I don't blame them. I through hook and by crook, I was lucky enough to be a first-time home buyer 2 years ago. But some people are not as lucky or fortunate and gotten the right circumstances I did to be able to afford it. But it's just there really is a sense of hopelessness, and that's coming from a young person.
Yeah. Appreciate you sharing that with us too. That is reality out there. And I think that's what people are feeling. We're up already against our final break here at the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Appreciate you joining us, whether it is by phone or text or on social media too. We'll be back after the break. Good questions. Good comments. That's hard. That's a hard reality, Scott.
Yeah, it is. It was, and there was a generation that is just now starting to get involved in buying properties. So, we grew up in the time frame where, you bought a property, you made, 6-7% a year on it, you sold it a few years later, and it was an investment. Well, a lot of young people that are 27 to 30 years old, they saw their parents lose their house. 52% of all sales back in 2008 were bank mediated.
Sure.
That means that, all these people lost their house. So if you were a kid at that time, you didn't look at real estate as being an investment. You look at a real estate as what ruined your parents' life.
Yeah.
They lost their house. They had to go in foreclosure, all that kind of stuff. And we're just starting to get those people back. That's why there's a few reasons, but the first-time home buyer average age 4 years ago was 27,000. I'm sorry, 27,000. The age of 27. Now it's 38.
Yeah.
So that's 11 years difference from people getting involved in real estate. Than they used to.
Yeah, very true. Appreciate all the nice comments from folks to the good mornings and hellos. Thank you, everybody. Wherever you're catching us, we got some comments from folks kind of all over the U.S. So we appreciate that wherever you are, wherever you're seeing us. Good stuff, and very, very much appreciated. Scott, there are a lot of open houses going on. You can tell it's like an open house weekend, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and you can always tell when there's a blip in the radar when you start seeing open houses, you start seeing price reductions, and you get a call from every agent when you show a house. As soon as you show it, they call. Because they want that sale. And versus a market where you've got 8 to 10 offers coming in, you're not as aggressive as because you don't really need to be.
Yeah. We're getting ready to go back live on our final segment here at the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Appreciate you all tuning in. Hope your weekend's going well. October. It's already October, if you can believe. Last warm weekend here in Minnesota. Get out, enjoy the sunshine. Welcome back to the final segment of the Minnesota Real Estate Show. Scott, we got to hit on a couple others because they're nice listings for buyers to check out. Dan Frank has one in Plymouth, 1224 Black Oaks Lane in Plymouth for $314,900. This is a townhome, one level two townhome, 2-bed, 2-bath, and it's this is rare in this neighborhood, Cimarron Ponds. There's a private 3-quarter primary bath, a full second bath. Yes, there's 2 bathrooms, cozy wood-burning fireplace. The HOA covers all the chores, Dan said: lawn, snow, exterior, insurance, sanitation, leaving you free to enjoy the fun stuff. You got a pool, scenic ponds, walking past, tennis, and did you hear, Scott? Pickleball.
Oh my God, you gotta have pickleball.
Great opportunity for one level, carefree living in a quiet, well-respected Plymouth community. Check that out, 1224 Black Oaks Lane North, and $314,900. Susan Mall, Scott, she's got one in Northfield, 805 Haywood Road for $720,000. This is 4-bed, 4-bath, 2-car garage. There's a finished basement with a walkout. You've got a very grand entrance with a breathtaking foyer, she said, a sweeping staircase. 3 beds on one level, a primary bedroom, has 2 walk-in closets and a fireplace, and a chef's kitchen. And the last one, Scott, Mr. Dorody. Ryan Dorody's got one up in Plymouth too, 17852 38th Avenue North for $419,000. This is also one-level living. It's a 55-plus Cornerstone Commons community, 3-bed, 3-bath, over 2,100 finished square feet. The main level's got oversized windows, a vaulted sunroom, cozy 3-sided fireplace. The lower levels finished with a 3rd bedroom, 3/4 bathroom. You've got a 2-person sauna, fun, Finlandia, 2-person sauna, and they're doing an open today. Rise out there today, 10:30 to noon. Check that out, 17852 38th Avenue North in Plymouth. Scott, $419,900. You've been playing any pickleball?
I have not played pickleball in probably 3 years.
Rye, are you playing?
It's funny. My cousin just had a birthday party at there's a pickleball bar and activity center in Maple Grove just last weekend. So I stopped there on Sunday, and it's a lot of fun.
It is, and what's so weird about it is to get off real estate subject, but pickleball. When I was a tennis player through high school and a little bit in college, and so when I was a 7th grader, the coaches would come to the junior high and play pickleball in the morning. And that was back in, well, I'm 57 years old. That was like forever ago. And it seems like everybody's like, pickleball's new. I'm like, I was playing it in 7th grade. And now it's just taken over. I mean, everybody's playing it.
We had a text message question come in that just says, I actually worked, this text said, I actually worked in an adult club in Minneapolis in the 90s. And what you guys just described was so true with them buying multiple homes. That's why the market crashed. And frankly, though, but again, I've seen some talk about the market crashing here, or people being so worried about it. There is no market crashing.
There are no indicators whatsoever.
Every week, our little team is a very small example. Every day on my email, I see 3 or 4 emails saying a buyer need. I have a pre-approved buyer looking to buy a wonderful home in Hopkins at this price point, this area. We can't find anything. Right. There's, first of all, so there's lack of inventory. Secondly, when you look at locally, Scott, we do have a strong labor market compared to a lot of parts of the country. A lot of people move here. I've got a lot of friends from college who have moved to the Twin Cities because of the big companies that you hear. And the last quick note is population increase. Do your own analysis on this. People moving, not even just job related, people that like the 4 seasons of Minnesota, that want to come to this part of the country. We've got a lot of people moving here. That increases demand, limited supply. I don't know what to say. I don't see any big crash happening.
Well, and the biggest difference right now is you have to have a job.
Yeah.
You have to have a credit score, and you have to have some skin in the game. So, it's really easy. It's really easy to walk away from $1 million property. when the property is worth, 800 now instead of $1 million, when you don't have $200,000 of your own money in it. You have zero. And so you bought a place for $1 million. Now it's worth 500. You got no money in. It'll take, back then it would take 2 years to foreclose because they were so backed up. So you could literally live there for free for 2 years, and people were doing it.
Yeah, there is some bank-owned inventory we see in our market. We list as a company, we do list some of that. Oftentimes, though, with a bank-owned property, you don't get as good of a deal as you think.
No.
Banks don't want to lose any more money, so they'll wait. Scott sends me a full price offer. You'd think, well, wow, why don't they take it? Well, now the bank says we're going to wait 1, 2, 3 days, 4 days. Let's see if we can get more offers. So just don't assume. I guess my point is, if it's bank owned, you're going to get a slamming deal.
Well, and understand this: there are no deals right now. We have 10,000 homes on the market, so you are going to get the maximum that the property's worth. It does not mean you're going to get the maximum of what you believe it's worth, but you are going to get the absolute maximum that the market is willing to pay, because there's nothing out there. So if you are within range, if you are within price range where I always tell my sellers, we want to be aggressive, not stupid. So we want to make sure we're appealing to the masses, so we get enough butts in the seat to get offers, hopefully multiples. And that's what's going on. So totally different market. I watched, there was a comedian that said, I knew the housing market was in trouble in 2007 when I could get a loan. And it's funny, but it's very true. Literally,
Yeah.
You could fog a mirror, you could go buy whatever house you wanted to buy.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. I mean, I think it seems like as long as we have done this show, Scott, I mean, since 2001 or 3 or whatever, how long has it been?
2005.
2005. There's always that little bit of a negative vibe, either that the market's going to crash, as well as a negative vibe. It's a terrible time to buy.
Yeah, it's always a terrible. Everybody always, that's their big thing. No, it's not. And frankly, it never is. It might be a terrible time to exit. That's different. So think about this. You bought a house. Well, think about your investment property.
Yeah.
So you bought investment properties from 2003 to 2005. If you were to put a pin on a board of the worst time to buy investment properties, that would have been those 2-3 years. Oh my God, Ryan's in trouble. No, he's not. We're 30 years later. Everybody's been paying paying the mortgages down. And so the point is, you didn't have to exit in 2008.
Yeah.
You could float it. Now everything's great. If you wanted to exit now, would be awesome. But yeah, so it's not when you buy, it's when you exit.
Well, and also too, we've seen some cases, Scott, where just some unfortunate situations where if it's a divorce, death, different reasons that people have to sell quickly.
Yes.
Where they buy and then within a year they've got to sell. That's always hard.
Yeah.
That is always, people can see what you paid for it. There's closing costs, buying and selling. When you own property, you've got to give it a little bit of time. So in those unfortunate situations, Scott, it can be hard. It can be very hard. And sometimes there's short sales as well that we see.
Yeah. And we're just I've probably had more, we hung on to the home through the bad times in the last 5 years, where, people that got divorced, but they're like, we didn't want to sell, until it came back. Well, it's now come back and above what it was back in 2008 or 2009 or 2010 or whatever. So it's come back, but a lot of divorces, they hung on to the home because they didn't want to take that beating.
Great job today, bud.
Yeah, you too.
Great job, Mr. Scott Wolmering. You got any fun plans today?
Going to take Jen's sister out. I think we're going to go to Maynard's on Lake Minnetonka, and I'm the designated driver, so I just go where they tell me.
Fun.
Yeah.
Fun. Rye, any big plans for you, buddy?
Oh, the apple orchard.
Yes.
Today. Get out that 90-degree fall day we got going on right now.
Ryan.
So, later going to do that.
Yeah,
I got to tell you, I'd rather have my fingernails pulled out than go to an
apple orchard.
Yes.
That's fun.
All the hay, and it's not my thing.
They got some beverages, so maybe you can drive us, on the way to Maynard's.
When my kids were little, I just open the door, kick them in there, and say, "Have fun. I'll be back in an hour."
Scott, that's probably true.
It's pretty close to true.
Pretty close to true. Hey, it's been a fun show. Before we leave, I wanted to mention just one real quick last thing. So with the O'Neill Foundation of Hope, we have a house in Bloomington called the House of Hope, which is a zero-cost transitional housing for folks who are going through a difficult time, experiencing hardships. we actually have an opening in one of the units. If you know anybody who is homeless, who's struggling, who needs some help and a zero cost place to live, reach out to us at the O'Neill Foundation of Hope. We do have an immediate opening. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Thanks everybody. Fun show. Good work, Scott.
Very nice. Appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks,
you all
everyone,
for the
tuning in.
comments, questions. We appreciate it wherever you were catching us from. We'll be back next week here at WCC.